And if you can't get ejected for this, I don't know what you can get ejected for. Like this play right here, I kid you not, like Kayla McBride could have easily broken Lexie Hull's nose. So if you guys didn't see the play, this was it. So McBride comes down with a rebound. Lexie Hull tries to reach around. Hull doesn't really have hands on her by the looks of things. Yeah, her hand's here. It's a foul on Lexie Hull. Cool. It's a foul on Lexie Hull. It is what it is. Then Kayla McBride has a bite. At this stage, by the time Kayla McBride's here, Lexie Hull's nowhere near. And then she clocks her in the face with an elbow. Like, that's not trying to get away. I'm sorry. Like, she'd already kind of pushed her off.
Okay, let's break down this absolutely wild technical foul that felt more like a gift to Kayla McBride than a real punishment. Seriously, the refs called it a tech, but anyone who actually saw the play knows that elbow was borderline flagrant, right? McBride didn't just accidentally graze Lexie Hull, she actually cocked back, swung that elbow, and left Lexie clutching her face on the hardwood. A technical? Come on. If that exact same move happened in the NBA, it's an automatic flagrant 1, maybe even a flagrant 2, depending on how mad the replay officials are feeling. The truth is, that was a truly dirty play.
Like, if you look at this here, so Lexie's going for the rebound. Lexie fouls her here. It is what it is. And at this stage, Kayla McBride has already gotten away from Lexie Hull. Lexie's pulled her hands away. It's over. And then she just clocks her in the face with an elbow. How did the referees see this and not deem it an ejection?
Lexie went down hard. I mean, she grabbed her face like she'd just taken a full-on right hook in a boxing match, and for a terrifying split second, everyone in the arena thought her night was totally over. But here's where Lexie Hull showed her toughness. She popped right back up, shook it off like a champ, and kept playing. Yet, that grit doesn't magically erase what happened, does it? Just because she didn't need stitches or x-rays, it doesn't mean that foul wasn't incredibly dirty. If anything, it just highlights how unbelievably soft the refs are when it comes to actually holding players like McBride accountable.
How is this not an ejection? And by the way, thank God Lexie Hull's flexible. Look at how she goes down on her left knee. Like, she could have tore her knee ligament there. But that can happen with every call. How is this not an ejection? This is the most obvious ejection I think I've ever seen.
On Hull there.
Let's get something crystal clear. The actual rulebook couldn't care less if a player ends up bleeding on the floor or doing cartwheels after a foul. The call, folks, should always be about the intent and the action itself. So was that elbow necessary? Absolutely not. Was it aggressive? You bet it was. Could it have seriously injured Lexie Hull? Without a doubt, that right there is the textbook definition of a flagrant foul. Instead, the refs totally tucked their whistles, pulling out a technical like they were genuinely afraid of hurting Kayla McBride's feelings. And that, my friends, is exactly why everyone is screaming for a suspension, because the punishment simply didn't fit the crime. If the WNBA truly wants to act like player safety actually matters, then they cannot let an intentional elbow just slide by with a weak slap on the wrist. This league has been preaching all season about protecting its stars and making sure the game doesn't cross into outright brawling, yet here's McBride throwing elbows like she's auditioning for the UFC. How on earth do you even begin to square that? Seriously.
And now, it's McBride getting pulled. And that one,
You know who did see it? Loud and clear. The fans. Especially Fever fans. And they were absolutely furious. Their girl, Lexie Hull, just got dropped. And what did they get in return? A shrug from the refs and deafening silence from her own teammates. It wasn't just the elbow that lit people up, it was the total mind-boggling lack of response from anyone. The crowd expected fire. They expected Aaliyah Boston, the heart of the Fever, to step in, maybe shove McBride back or at least get right in her face. Nothing. They expected Natasha Howard, with all her veteran grit, to march over and say, "Not today." Again, crickets. Instead, Lexie Hull was left to pick herself up, while the rest of the Fever acted like they just saw a bird fly across the gym. No retaliation, no fire, no message to the Lynx that you simply don't touch our people. That's how this outrage snowballed. It wasn't just about McBride's dirty elbow, it was about the Fever looking shockingly soft in the face of it. Think about it. In a different era, say the early 2000s NBA, someone's getting tossed, someone's getting shoved, and the very next possession, there's a hard foul right back. That's basketball 101. You defend your teammates. But this Fever squad, they looked like they were checking their phones on the bench, and that silence was truly deafening, and the fans absolutely noticed. Now let's talk about McBride herself for a second. She's no rookie hothead, she's a veteran, and she knows exactly what she's doing. That wasn't a slip, it wasn't momentum carrying her elbow up, it was controlled, deliberate, and aimed high enough to make sure Lexie felt it. When seasoned pros pull stunts like that, it's never an accident, it's pure frustration boiling over, and frustration doesn't excuse it, it actually makes it worse, because instead of channeling that into better defense, McBride turned it into a cheap shot. And here's the real kicker. The refs had the perfect chance to set the tone right then and there. Call it a flagrant, review it, toss her out, make an example, and let every player know that if you want to play dirty, you can go watch the rest of the game from the locker room. Instead, they kept her in, handed her a technical, and basically told everyone, yeah, elbows to the face are totally fine as long as you don't actually break a nose. That, my friends, is exactly how you lose all credibility as a league. You talk tough about safety, you run campaigns about protecting players, but then when something this obvious happens, you just look the other way. Fans see it, players see it, and that's why everyone is demanding a suspension, because if you don't, you're setting a dangerous standard where elbows to the head are just part of the game now. The backlash only got louder because Lexie Hull isn't just any Fever player. She's one of the fan favorites. She's scrappy, she hustles, she takes charges, she defends like her life literally depends on it. So when she got hit, fans felt it personally. They weren't just mad at McBride, they were mad at their own team for not stepping up, and they were furious at the league for shrugging it off. And speaking of silence, Aaliyah Boston's wide-eyed, "I can't believe that just happened" look became an instant meme, which is fine for social media, but definitely not fine for a leader. Fans desperately wanted her to step in, to make a stand, show the Fever weren't going to be bullied. Natasha Howard, same deal. She's a seasoned vet who knows the politics of this league, but in that moment, crickets. And silence in this situation screams weakness. Now let's pull back and seriously think about what happens if the league actually grows a spine and suspends McBride. First off, it sends an undeniable message, not just to McBride, but to every player. You simply cannot throw cheap shots and walk away with a mere technical. It instantly raises the bar, telling players, play physical, fine, but don't you dare cross into dirty. It also gives Fever fans some much needed reassurance that their outrage actually matters, and that the league genuinely cares about consistency. But if they don't suspend her, then buckle up, because next week, some other frustrated vet is absolutely going to try the exact same thing, and when the next elbow lands and the next player hits the floor, the WNBA won't be able to hide behind those "we're growing the game" slogans. They'll just look like total hypocrite. And let's be real, we absolutely cannot ignore the Caitlin Clark factor in all of this. Clark has been taking brutal hits all season long, elbows, shoves, hard fouls that look more like wrestling moves, and every single time fans have been asking, where is the protection? Now here's another Fever player taking a shot right to the face, and again, nothing but a technical. You really don't think fans are connecting these dots? Of course they are. The narrative is practically writing itself. The WNBA simply doesn't protect the Fever, period. So yes, McBride absolutely should be suspended, not because Lexie Hull's face broke, which it didn't, and not because she couldn't play, because she did, but because intent matters, aggression matters, and the message mattered. If you're gonna keep letting these technicals slide, don't be surprised when games inevitably turn into outright brawls. A suspension isn't just punishment, it's proactive prevention. Here's where this whole situation gets even funnier, and by funny I mean laugh to keep from crying kind of funny. This isn't even the first time the refs in this league have played completely blind to obvious dirty plays. Just think back a couple of weeks ago when Jordan Canada shoved Caitlin Clark like she was trying to clear out space at Walmart on Black Friday, and what did the refs call? A common foul, nothing more. The internet exploded, ESPN debated it, and the league's response, the same robotic corporate line, we review all incidents. Translation, we'll do absolutely nothing and just hope you forget by Thursday. Now swap Jordan Canada's name for Kayla McBride and Caitlin Clark's name for Lexie Hull, and here we are again. Same league, same refs, same utter nonsense. They call it consistency. I call it selective blindness. The WNBA has this bizarre magic ability to treat every Fever player as if they're disposable. Take the hit, take the foul, move on. Meanwhile, if this exact same elbow was thrown at Breanna Stewart or Asia Wilson, that whistle would have blown so fast the refs would have broken their lip. And here's where we drag Kathy Engelbert into this circus, the commissioner, the one who is supposed to protect the integrity of the league. Every single time something like this happens, she's utterly quiet, silent, not a single word about suspensions, not even a fake "we're looking into it" press release. Nothing. The woman disappears like Houdini anytime the Fever are the ones getting clobbered, and fans notice. They're not dumb. They're asking, does the league just not care if Indiana gets mauled? Because that's precisely what it looks like. Then there's the Fever's own bench. My God, you'd think after your teammate takes an elbow to the face, someone would at least get in the offender's face. But nope, it's like they were waiting for DoorDash to deliver post-game win. Aaliyah Boston's wide-eyed gasp was literally the most effort anyone showed. That's not leadership, that's shock value for a TikTok reaction. Natasha Howard vanished. Odyssey Sims was too busy blending into the box score to care. This is supposed to be a professional team, not a yoga class where everyone practices silence. Fans wanted retaliation, not in the punch her back sense, but in the show some fight sense. Basketball has unwritten rules, and one of them is simple. You protect your people. If your teammate hits the floor because of a cheap shot, you respond. Maybe it's a shove on the next play. Maybe it's stepping up in the huddle. Maybe it's a stare down that screams, "Not on our watch." But the Fever, they had all the backbone of a wet noodle, and that's exactly why fans are livid. It wasn't just McBride's elbow, it was the infuriating silence that followed. Now people will argue, but Hull got up and kept playing, so it wasn't that bad. And that, my friends, is exactly the problem. Because Hull's toughness actually masks the real issue. Just because she wasn't carted off doesn't mean it was clean. That's like saying, well, the house didn't burn down, so the guy who threw the lit match inside shouldn't be punished. No, the intent and the action matter, not just the aftermath. If the league only punishes players when someone's jaw is broken, then what's next? Do we seriously wait until someone's nose actually snaps on live TV? Let's also zoom out to the Fever's bigger picture, because this couldn't have come at a worse time. Their playoff hopes are dangling by a thread, clinging to the 8th spot like a cat hanging from a ceiling fan. Every single game matters, and instead of talking about game plans or matchups, we're stuck talking about suspensions and dirty fouls. That's the kind of distraction that absolutely tanks a locker room. And Caitlin Clark isn't even in the mix right now, still out, still being evaluated, which is code for we don't want to risk her in a lost season. Without her, the Fever already looked incredibly fragile. Then McBride throws the elbow, the refs go soft, and suddenly you're left asking, what's the point of even finishing this season? If the league won't protect your players and your teammates won't defend each other, what exactly are you even fighting for? Meanwhile, Minnesota is walking away laughing. They not only won the game, but their player delivered the elbow and stayed in the game to keep score. That's adding insult to injury. It's like robbing a bank and then being asked to stay and count the money. That's how pathetic the officiating looked. And please don't even get me started on the "it was just part of the game" crowd. You know, the ones, the fans who comment basketball is physical. Stop crying. Yeah, basketball is physical, and so is football, and so is hockey, but even in those sports, if you swing an elbow into someone's face, you're sitting out. If Tom Wilson in the NHL does that, it's suspension sit. If Draymond Green does it in the NBA, you better believe he's getting escorted to the locker room before he can even take off his headband. But Kayla McBride, she gets a technical foul and a free pass to keep shooting threes. Consistency, folks. At this point, a suspension isn't just deserved, it's absolutely required. The WNBA simply cannot let this slide without looking like a complete joke. McBride should miss at least a game to send a clear message. If you want to keep elbows in your toolkit, go join the UFC. If you're playing basketball, keep your arms in check. Simple as that. But let's be honest, even if she does get suspended, the damage is already done. The Fever look soft, they look unprotected, and the fans absolutely know it. The outrage on social media wasn't just about McBride. It was about a deeply troubling pattern, about Caitlin Clark taking elbows, about Lexie Hull getting dropped, about refs swallowing whistles, and about teammates who won't even bark back. The Fever have officially turned into the league's punching bag, and unless they grow some serious backbone, it's just gonna keep happening. So here we are, Kayla McBride throws an elbow, Lexie Hull hits the floor, the refs call it soft, the Fever do nothing, the fans rage, and the league stays silent. Same script, different day. And unless someone in authority finally wakes up, this league is gonna have more drama about fouls than actual basketball. Kayla McBride should be suspended, plain and simple. If the league won't protect its players, fans will keep calling it out, and the Fever will just keep looking weak.